had asked me, or anyone really, back in the early 2000s which action film series would still be alive and kicking going into the 2020s, the Fast and the Furious would have been pretty far down that list, if at all. Though, to be fair, you'd be hard-pressed to even recognize the series at this point. It's kind of interesting to look back on all of these movies as a whole and just try to reflect on how we got here. The first one, if you'll recall, was pretty much just a ripoff of Point Break, wherein a cop, played by Paul Walker, has to infiltrate the LA street racing scene in order to catch a criminal, played by Vin Diesel, who makes his living mostly by stealing consumer-grade electronics like televisions and DVD players out from the back of trucks. It's very small-scale stuff. Each movie since then has been gradually upping the ante as the series progresses, to the point where the last couple of films have essentially been low-key superhero vehicles, where the main character's superpowers are, well, vehicles. This latest outing drops the pretense entirely.
I'm Black Superman.
Introducing a bionically enhanced super soldier, played by Idris Elba, trying to get his hands on a super virus that could destroy the world if ever it were to end up in the hands of the shadowy super villain pulling the strings behind the scenes. The only two men who can stop this from happening are
Luke Hobbs, career lawman, always gets his guy. Deckard Shaw, rogue former MI6 agent, doesn't play well with others. You guys have to work together.
No way. This guy's a real ass.
That's right, this franchise has officially spun off into ridiculously overblown high-octane buddy cop territory. See, this film has taken the crutch of a not-so-behind-the-scenes dispute between the series' lead, Vin Diesel, and its most bankable star, Dwayne Johnson, who in the previous film refused to even appear on camera together. And the film has turned that crutch into a strength, making the smart decision to drop most of the previous movie's overstuffed cast, instead focusing in on the two most charismatic and entertaining characters from the past few movies. Hobbs and Shaw doesn't contain any cameos by anyone else in the main series, instead opting to build up its own cast of supporting players. It really doesn't even have anything to do with cars anymore. In fact, there isn't much about this movie to indicate that it ever was part of a 20-year-long running series to begin with, aside from passing reference to Hobbs having saved the world before.
I'm trying to save the world, which, for the record, will be my fourth time.
By the way, unless he's referring to multiple events that happened off-screen, that's not even accurate. The only previous Fast and Furious movie where the world was at stake was the 8th one, but that's beside the point.
I see what you're doing. You think I'm stupid? Of course I think you're stupid.
This film seems so eager to detach itself from what came before that if it does well enough, I honestly wouldn't be surprised at all if the sequel drops the Fast and Furious moniker entirely. Despite this disconnect from the characters and events of previous films, Hobbs and Shaw is still very much in line with the central themes of the Fast and Furious series, with a strong emphasis on bonds of family and fellowship being able to overcome any obstacle.
Family never gives up.
But with all of that preamble out of the way, what did I actually think of Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw? It was alright. Like many of the previous entries, this is a very loud and very dumb, but mostly entertaining movie most of the way through, though it's definitely a bit long at over 2 hours, and I feel like it would have benefited from leaving about 30 minutes on the cutting room floor. This film is carried from start to finish by the chemistry between Johnson and Statham, who still work very well together in these roles, and I got plenty of chuckles from these two and their verbal banter back and forth, as well as a lot of the physical comedy where the two are trying to outcompete each other in various ways.
You think I'm stupid? Of course I think you're stupid.
It was, however, a little bit frustrating to me that this movie is seemingly trying to retcon Jason Statham's character into like a misunderstood hero, completely ignoring the fact that he straight up murdered Han in the post-credit scene of the 6th film. It still hurts, you know? Apart from that, I'm not really sure what else there is to say about this movie. You already know, based on the concept and the trailers alone, whether or not Hobbs and Shaw is a film that you're going to get anything out of. Did you like the last few? Yes? Cool, you'll probably like this one. Didn't like them? Oh well, you probably won't like this either. The movie gives you exactly what's being advertised on the package. Two big action guys who don't really get along have to team up to stop a third big action guy from destroying the world. I mean, hell, Idris Elba literally introduces himself as the bad guy in the first 2 minutes of the film. I'm not even kidding. Somebody asks him who he is, and he just kind of shrugs and says,
"Bad guy. You think I'm stupid? Of course I think you're stupid."
Like I said, for my money, I thought it was just fine. It wasn't a great movie, but there wasn't anything about it that I hated either. It's an easy recommendation to any fan of the other movies. Go check it out if you are so inclined. And if you like this video, help me out by hitting that like button, subscribing, and ringing the bell to stay up to date on all of my latest stuff. Leave a comment down below with any of your thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw or any of the previous films, and check out some of the other great stuff I've got up on my channel. Stay tuned, I've got some unfinished business coming next week. But until then, thanks so much to all of you guys for watching, and take care.